Have you ever felt like something or someone is working against you and you can't quite explain it, no matter how hard you push forward? Strange setbacks, confusion, and unnatural resistance seem to hold you back. This is not just coincidence. It may be an attack designed to disrupt your purpose. Today, I will reveal 10 signs that expose these hidden battles and how you can take back control of your life. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt drained? Like the energy shifted and now something heavy is pressing against you? Have you ever had moments where everything in your life seemed to align only for something strange, something unexplainable to throw it all into chaos? What if I told you this is not just life happening? There are forces at work that are unseen, attacks that don't come in the form of fists or weapons, but through influence, through manipulation, through disruptions that seem small at first. But when you step back, you realize there's a pattern, a cycle, a force trying to derail your destiny. One of the first signs that you are under attack is unexplainable oppression and resistance. Now, pay attention to this, because this is where many people miss it. You see, not all opposition is normal. Sometimes what you're facing isn't just a difficult season or bad luck. It's a targeted effort to wear you down, to break your spirit, and to make you believe that you are powerless. Have you noticed how the moment you decide to step into something greater, everything starts going wrong? Doors that should have opened slam shut. People who once supported you turn against you. Your mind, once clear, now clouded with doubt, fear, and confusion. You wake up feeling drained. Even though you've done nothing exhausting, your plans delayed, your focus shattered. It's like an invisible hand is constantly pushing against you, blocking your progress. Now, don't be mistaken. Challenges are a part of life, but when the resistance is persistent, when every step forward feels like you're being pulled 10 steps back, when confusion replaces clarity and heaviness settles over you for no reason, it's time to look deeper, because something or someone is working against you. And let's talk about the people in your life. Have you ever noticed how certain individuals suddenly appear right when you're about to elevate? They come with distractions, drama, negativity, subtle yet effective ways to divert your attention from what really matters. They speak words that plant seeds of doubt. They introduce confusion where there was once certainty, and before you know it, you've lost momentum. This is how it works. This is how unseen battles are fought. Through influence, through invisible pressure, through obstacles that are not natural. And the danger, if you don't recognize it, you start to accept it. You start believing that this is just how life is. But no, the moment you see the attack for what it is, you gain back your power. So the question is, are you under attack? Are you facing resistance that doesn't make sense? Is your energy constantly drained? Your progress always delayed? Your clarity always under attack? If so, it's time to wake up. Because the moment you become aware, the moment you start recognizing these signs, you begin to take back control. But this is just the beginning, because the next sign, it's even more dangerous. It's subtle, it's deceptive, and it's something that could already be happening in your life without you even realizing it. Have you ever felt like you're losing control, not just over your circumstances, but over your own thoughts? Like something is working behind the scenes, influencing your mind, stirring up confusion, doubt, and fear. One moment, you're confident, focused, ready to take on the world, and the next, anxiety, uncertainty, a heaviness you can't explain. This is not just stress. It's not just overthinking. No, this is something deeper. It's called mental and emotional distortion. You see, when an attack is launched against you, it doesn't always come from the outside. It starts from within. Because if your mind can be controlled, if your emotions can be manipulated, then your decisions, your actions, and ultimately your destiny can be altered. Have you ever noticed how out of nowhere you start doubting yourself? You start questioning things you were once certain about? Your vision blurry, your passion dimmed. One day you're excited about your future, and the next you feel like giving up. It's almost as if someone whispered lies into your ear, and now those lies have become your reality. Pay attention, because this is how it happens. Negative thoughts don't just appear. Confusion doesn't just show up. There's a reason your emotions are up and down, why fear grips you when you try to move forward, why you suddenly feel disconnected from the very things that once gave you strength. And what's worse, you don't even realize it's happening. Because mental attacks are not loud, they're quiet. They come in small whispers. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I should just quit. And before you know it, those thoughts become your truth. But let me tell you something. Those thoughts are not yours. That fear, that confusion, that overwhelming pressure, it's being planted. Dead, designed to keep you stuck, wandering in circles, never stepping fully into your potential. And here's the real danger. Once your mind is compromised, your choices follow. You start making emotional decisions instead of wise decisions. You disconnect from people who are good for you and get pulled toward those who are not. You hesitate when you should take action. You react when you should be. Your life becomes a battlefield where you're fighting shadows, uncertain, exhausted, and constantly second-guessing yourself. But hear me clearly. This is not your identity. This is not who you are. The moment you recognize this attack, the moment you see it for what it is, you take back your mind, your emotions, your focus. Because if your mind is clear, your path is clear. And when your path is clear, nothing can stop you. But we're not done yet, because the next sign, it's even more dangerous. It doesn't just attack your thoughts or emotions. It attacks something far more personal. And if you're not careful, you won't even see it coming. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the closer you get to a breakthrough, the more people around you start changing? Suddenly the ones who used to support you become distant. Conversations that once brought joy now bring tension. Trust begins to fade. And before you know it, relationships that were meant to strengthen you start falling apart. This is not a coincidence. This is an attack. It's called relational strife and isolation. Because listen to me, when unseen forces want to break you, they don't just come for your mind. They come for your connections. They come for the people in your life. Because if they can isolate you, if they can separate you from the right voices, the right relationships, the right support, then they can weaken you. Have you noticed how little misunderstandings suddenly turn into major conflicts? How people you love start acting differently toward you, cold, distant, irritated, for no reason? How offense creeps in, making you question their intentions, their loyalty, their love. And what happens next? The people who once covered you in prayer, in wisdom, in strength are no longer around. You stop sharing, you stop trusting, you start carrying burdens alone. And in that place of isolation, the attack becomes even stronger, because now you're vulnerable. Now your mind is unguarded. Now you're an easy target. Let me make this clear. Relationships don't just fall apart. Healthy connections don't just break. There's always a reason, and sometimes that reason is not natural. Look back at your life. How many friendships ended over something small? How many times have you walked away from someone you needed simply because of a misunderstanding? How many times has offense kept you from reconnecting with someone who was once a blessing in your life? See, the goal of this attack is simple. Separation. Because when you're isolated, you are weaker, and when you're weaker, you are more easily controlled. So what do? You open your eyes. You recognize the pattern. You ask yourself, is this conflict real, or is something trying to divide us? You refuse to let offense take root. You fight for the relationships that are worth fighting for. And most importantly, you do not allow yourself to be isolated. Because the moment you do, you become an easy target. But we're not stopping here. Because the next sign is one of the most dangerous. It doesn't just attack your mind. It doesn't just attack your relationships. It goes even deeper. It attacks your very identity. And when that happens, everything else begins to fall apart. Who are you? No, really, who are you? What do you stand for? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about your purpose? Because let me tell you something. When unseen forces want to destroy you, they don't just attack your mind, your emotions, or your relationships. They come for your very identity. Think about it. If you don't know who you are, if you don't know your worth, if you don't know what you were born to do, then you're already defeated. Because now you're vulnerable. You're easily influenced. You start believing things about yourself that are not true. And once that happens, your confidence fades. Your purpose becomes blurry. And you start walking in an identity that was never yours to begin with. This attack is dangerous because it's subtle. It doesn't show up as an obvious battle. It sneaks in through negative experiences, toxic words, past failures, and deep insecurities. It comes through labels people put on you. Labels you never asked for. Labels like, you're not smart enough. You'll never be successful. You're just like your parents. You don't have what it takes. And the moment you accept these labels as truth, you start living like they're true. You shrink yourself. You stop dreaming. You settle for less than what you were meant for. And worst of all, you no longer recognize yourself. Let me ask you, when was the last time you felt like you? The last time you were bold, confident, excited about your future? When was the last time you moved without hesitation, without second guessing, without being weighed down by other people's opinions? Because if it's been a long time, then you need to ask yourself, have I lost sight of who I am? And that's exactly what this attack is designed to do, to make you forget, to make you question your worth, to make you live in fear instead of authority. And the moment you accept that false identity, the battle is won, but not in your favor. So what do? You take back your identity. You reject every lie that was ever spoken over you. You refuse to be defined by your past, your failures, or your mistakes. And you remind yourself every single day who you are. Because when you stand firm in your identity, no attack can shake you, no opposition can break you, and nothing can stop you from becoming everything you were meant to be. But listen closely, because the next sign, it's even more dangerous. It doesn't just attack your thoughts, your emotions, or your relationships. It doesn't just try to distort your identity. It does something even more devastating. It makes you believe that your future is hopeless, and once that happens, the real battle begins. Have you ever woken up and felt completely drained before the day even started? Have you ever looked at your future and for some reason felt absolutely no hope, no motivation, no excitement? It's like something is telling you, why even try? Nothing is going to change. This is not just exhaustion. It's not just being in a rut. No, this is an attack, and it's one of the most dangerous ones because it makes you believe that your future is already lost. Let me tell you something. If the enemy can take your hope, he can take your destiny. If he can convince you that tomorrow holds nothing for you, then today will feel meaningless. And that's exactly what this attack is designed to do. Make you give up before you even begin. Think about it. How many times have you started something with passion only for that passion to slowly disappear? How many dreams have you had that now feel distant, impossible, unreachable? How many times have you told yourself, maybe this just isn't meant for me? Pay attention, because this is how it works. First, small disappointments come. Delays, setbacks, little things that chip away at your confidence. Then the doubts creep in. Maybe I was wrong to believe I could do this. Then a heaviness settles over you. And before you know it, you've stopped trying. You've stopped believing. You've accepted a version of life that is far beneath what you were meant for. And here's the worst part. It feels real. It feels like your dreams are slipping away. It feels like there's no point in hoping anymore. But let me tell you something. It's a lie. Because if your future was truly hopeless, why are you still here? If your purpose was over, why do you still have breath in your lungs? Listen to me. If there is still life in you, then there is still purpose in you. And if there is still purpose in you, then nothing can stop what is meant to come forth in your life. But here's the key. You have to recognize the attack. You have to see it for what it is. You have to understand that this battle isn't just about your emotions, it's about your destiny. Because the moment you stop believing in your future, the moment you stop pushing forward, the moment you accept defeat, the attack has succeeded. So what do? You refuse to let hopelessness win. You take back your excitement for life. You decide that no matter how things look, no matter what has happened, you will keep going. Because the truth is, your future is not lost. It's just being fought for. But listen closely, because the next sign is even more dangerous. It doesn't just make you feel hopeless. It doesn't just try to steal your dreams. It goes after something even deeper. Something that has the power to control your entire life without you even realizing it. Have you ever noticed how, no matter how hard you try, your life seems to be stuck in the same cycle? The same struggles, the same problems, the same frustrations, just in different forms. You push forward only to be pulled back. You make progress only to hit a wall. You take one step ahead and suddenly something happens that knocks you 5 steps behind. This is not just bad luck. It's not just a rough season. No, this is an attack. And it's one of the most dangerous because it operates in the shadows. It's called CY class of repeated failure and stagnation. Look at your life. Are there areas where you keep fighting the same battles over and over again? Maybe every time you get close to success, something happens to delay it. Maybe every time you're about to step into something great, fear, distraction, or some unexpected obstacle blocks your way. Maybe no matter how hard you work, you never seem to break through to the next level. That's not normal, as an invisible resistance. Because listen, life has challenges, yes, but when the same battles keep showing up in different ways, when the same struggles keep repeating themselves, when you feel trapped in a cycle that you can't seem to break, that's a sign. This attack is designed to keep you running in circles. It's designed to make you waste years, even decades, fighting the same battles, carrying the same burdens, dealing with the same frustrations until you're exhausted, until you start to believe that this is just how life is, until you accept a reality that was never meant for you. And let's talk about how it happens. It starts with small things, delays, disappointments, a few missed opportunities. But then, before you know it, you're stuck. You're working hard, but going nowhere. You're doing everything you know how to do, but the results don't match the effort. You feel like you're moving, but when you look back, you realize you've been standing in the same place all along. This is how people waste years. This is how destinies are delayed. Because when you're caught in a cycle, you don't even realize you're in one. You just keep hoping that one day things will change. But listen, things don't change by accident. You have to recognize the cycle. You have to break the pattern. You have to decide that you will no longer live in a reality that is beneath what you were meant for. Because the moment you break free, the moment you step out of the cycle, everything changes. But listen, this is not the end, because the next sign is even more dangerous. It doesn't just keep you stuck. It doesn't just delay your future. It works in a way that is so subtle, so deceptive, that by the time you realize what's happening, it might already be too late. Have you ever felt like your own thoughts were turning against you? Like there's a voice in your head that constantly reminds you of your failures, your mistakes, your weaknesses. No matter how much progress you make, no matter how much good is happening in your life, there's always this invisible weight, this mental pressure that makes you feel unworthy, incapable, or just exhausted. This is not just self-doubt. It's not just overthinking. No, this is an attack. And it's one of the most dangerous because it happens inside you. It's called mental exhaustion and weariness. Because listen, when your mind is tired, your whole life slows down. When your thoughts are heavy, your decisions become weak. When you're constantly battling negativity in your head, you don't have the energy to fight for your destiny. And that's the goal of this attack, to wear you down from the inside out. Look at your life. Have you been feeling drained no matter how much you rest? Have you been losing motivation for things you once loved? Do you find yourself struggling to focus, struggling to stay inspired, struggling to even care about the things you know are important? This is not normal. This is an invisible force trying to keep you mentally and emotionally exhausted. Because when you're tired, you start making decisions out of weakness instead of wisdom. When your mind is under attack, your vision gets blurry. You start questioning things you were once sure about. You hesitate when you should move forward. You start allowing things you once rejected. And before you know it, you're stuck in a state of survival instead of growth. And let's be honest, this attack is relentless. You can have a great day, full of excitement, but as soon as you're alone, those thoughts creep in. What if I fail? What if this isn't meant for me? What if I'm not good enough? And just like that, your energy drops. Your confidence fades. Your fire starts to die out. This is not just a bad habit. It's not just the way life is. It's a strategy, one designed to break you from the inside. Because once your mind is weak, everything else follows. But here's the truth. You do not have to live like this. You do not have to be a prisoner to your own thoughts. The moment you recognize this attack, The moment you understand that these negative thoughts are not your reality, you take back control. You take back your strength. You take back your focus. But we're not finished yet, because the next sign, it's even more dangerous. It doesn't just drain your mind. It doesn't just make you question yourself. It works in a way that is so deceptive that if you're not careful, it will destroy your progress without you even realizing it. Have you ever felt tension in your relationships that didn't make sense? Suddenly, people who once supported you start pulling away. Conversations that used to be filled with encouragement now feel heavy, filled with misunderstandings, doubt, and even hostility. The very people you thought would always be there start acting differently, and you can't explain why. This is not just a season of change. It's not just people showing their true colors. No, this is an attack, and it's one of the most destructive because it's designed to isolate you. Because listen, when forces want to stop your destiny, they don't always come straight for you. Sometimes they come for the people around you. They bring division where there was once unity. They create conflict where there was once peace. They plant doubt, jealousy, suspicion, small things that slowly turn trusted relationships into battles. Think about it. Have you noticed an increase in arguments, misunderstandings, or emotional distance between you and people you love? Have you felt like no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to fix the tension? Have you seen certain relationships shift in a way that leaves you confused, frustrated, or even heartbroken? That's not an accident. Because if you can be isolated, you can be controlled. If you can be separated from wise counsel, support, and genuine love, then you become vulnerable. Vulnerable to depression, vulnerable to bad decisions, vulnerable to attacks that you were never meant to fight alone. And the worst part, they think people just change. But the truth is, this kind of attack is strategic. It places the right words in the wrong ears. It creates small offenses that build into deep resentment. It makes people believe things that aren't true. And before you know it, what was once strong falls apart. And let me tell you something. If you don't recognize this attack, you will start to believe that every relationship is disposable. You'll start walking away from people who were actually meant to walk with you. You'll start believing that you don't need anyone, that you're better off alone, and that is exactly where the enemy wants you. Because when you're alone, you're easier to defeat. When you're alone, you don't have the strength of unity. When you're alone, the wrong voices become louder. But here's the truth. You don't have to let this happen. When you recognize this attack, you fight for the right relationships. You guard against unnecessary conflict. You refuse to let division win. But we're not done. Because the next sign is even more dangerous. It doesn't just attack your relationships. It doesn't just make you feel alone. It targets something even greater, something that controls everything about your future. And if you don't stop it in time, the consequences can be devastating. Have you ever felt like no matter how much money you make, it disappears faster than you can hold on to it? Like no matter how hard you work, you're always struggling to keep up? Unexpected expenses keep showing up. Deals that were supposed to go through suddenly fall apart. Opportunities that look promising suddenly vanish without warning. And you start to wonder, why does it feel like something is blocking my increase? This is not just a tough financial season. It's not just bad luck. No, this is an attack. And it's one of the most crippling because it doesn't just affect your wallet, it affects your mindset. Because listen, when your resources are under attack, it creates a spirit of lack. It makes you start thinking small, expecting less, settling for barely enough. And once that mindset takes hold, you stop dreaming. You stop planning for greater. You start believing that you're meant to struggle. But here's the truth. If you were truly meant to live in struggle, why do you feel so much frustration? Why do you feel that deep knowing inside that says this is not how things are supposed to be? Because something is resisting your progress. And the goal of this attack is simple: to make you stop believing in expansion, to keep you in survival mode, to make sure you never step into the abundance that was meant for you. Look at your life. Have you noticed patterns where every time you start to rise financially, something happens to pull you back down? Have you seen moments where things finally seem stable and then out of nowhere an emergency comes and drains what you've built? Have you had seasons where doors that were wide open suddenly slammed shut at the last minute? That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. Because when your resources are under attack, your decisions change. You start making choices out of fear instead of wisdom. You start saying no to opportunities because you're too afraid to take risks. You start living in a constant state of anxiety, wondering if you'll have enough to make it through the next month. And when you're in survival mode, you can't focus on your future. You can't build, you can't expand, you can't think beyond your next paycheck. That is not how you were meant to live, because the moment you recognize this attack, you start fighting back. You stop agreeing with lack. You stop speaking defeat over your finances. You start shifting your mindset from survival to expansion. Because, listen, what you believe about your resources determines what you receive. But we're not done yet. Because the final sign is the most dangerous of them all. It doesn't just attack your finances. It doesn't just make you live small. It goes after the one thing that fuels everything in your life. And if this last attack succeeds, it can leave you feeling completely lost, with no way back. Have you ever woken up and felt nothing? No drive, no passion, no excitement for the future? The things you once loved, the dreams you once chased, the goals that once kept you up at night suddenly don't feel important anymore. You try to push forward, but deep inside, there's this heaviness, a voice that whispers, "What's the point?" This is not just a phase. It's not just exhaustion. No, this is an attack, and it's the most dangerous one of all because it goes straight for your purpose. Because listen, if your purpose is stolen, everything else falls apart. Your motivation fades. Your vision becomes blurry. You start living on autopilot, just going through the motions. And that's exactly what this attack wants, to make you lose your sense of direction, to make you feel disconnected, discouraged, and distant from what you were created to do. Look at your life. Have you been feeling unmotivated even when nothing is wrong? Have you lost interest in the things that once excited you? Do you find yourself feeling empty no matter what you achieve? That's not just a bad day. That's a strategy. Because when you stop caring about your purpose, you stop moving toward it. You start questioning everything. Maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe I should just settle. Maybe this is the best life is ever going to get. And the moment you accept that mindset, the battle is already lost. Because let me tell you something, purposelessness is a slow poison. It doesn't kill you instantly. It drains you little by little. It makes you comfortable with mediocrity. It convinces you to trade greatness for just getting by, and before you know it, years have passed, and you've settled into a life you were never meant to live. But here's the truth. This attack only works if you let it, because purpose doesn't disappear. It doesn't die. It doesn't fade. It just gets buried under doubt, fear, and disappointment. But the moment you recognize this attack, you can dig your fire back up. You can reignite your passion. You can step back into your destiny. And listen, this is not just about you. There are people waiting on you to step into your purpose. There are doors that will never open unless you walk through them. There are lives that will never be changed unless you rise up and take your place. So now the question is, what will you do? Will you let this attack steal your destiny? Will you let these battles make you forget who you are? Or will you rise and take back everything that was meant for you? Because the moment you decide, I refuse to stay stuck, everything begins to change